the breakfast is an amazing opportunity to meet people, right? Because everyone's sitting at a table, there's an open seat, you get your breakfast, you sit down, and now you're meeting 10 people before the show even starts. And they're a captive audience.
And everyone's very open. I was shocked how friendly everybody was and how welcoming they were hearing your story, whether you're running a $5 billion fund or you're just someone who's starting in the business, totally open to talking to you, to understanding who you are, because they're also there to meet people.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ask a Private Lender podcast. As always, I'm Lawrence from Mortgage Automator, joined by Joseph Fuchs. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We're not having any guests on the show today. We're coming up to the end of the year. The trade show circuit is coming to an end. And we thought it'd be beneficial for everyone listening to hear about our experiences going to trade shows, things that have worked, things that we've learned over time, just give you any insight to make an informed decision on whether maybe going to trade shows are right for you. And if you do choose to go to some, what are some things that you should know about? So, let's get started, Joe. Preparing for the trade show. Let's start there. You make a decision. You say you want to go to a trade show in 60 days, maybe a few months. What do you have to do to get prepared to go to the trade shows?
First thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that the show you're going to is going to be benefiting your business. You want to make sure the people attending are actually potential clients of yours that you think that would be interested in, using your product or working with you. And then obviously the cost of the actual show itself, how many tickets it comes with, there's obviously you have to pay for electrical. You have to factor all of that into budgeting for these shows because, trade show season is very expensive and you want to make sure you're getting the most out of your dollar. And essentially, your booth, what's that going to cost you? The show, the tickets, the hotels, it does add up quite a bit. It's not just the price of the booth itself. So I think it's imperative that you crunch all your numbers to make sure that show is worthwhile to going to based on all the costs.
So you're going into exhibiting at a trade show, which obviously I'd like to dive into a little bit more. But even before exhibiting, even attending a show, right? So you buy a ticket, you go to a show. Number one, there are a lot of shows, and you want to make sure that you're choosing to go to the right ones that are going to benefit you or your business. I would say from just even an attending a show standpoint, you want to go and see who all the sponsors are, right? That's number one. Every single organization posts who's sponsoring the shows. You want to look at that list and you want to see off the bat, is there anyone on this list that I need to talk to, right? Because when you get to a show, you're going to see it's overwhelming. There are a lot of people. Some of these shows have 700 people, 1,000 people, 100 exhibitors. And if you just show up without being organized, you're going to notice at the end of the day that you forgot to talk to certain people or you missed certain people at the show that it would have been beneficial for you. So I would say the first thing is see who's there, who's exhibiting, Write down a list of people that you want to go to their booth because you have something that you need to discuss with them. The second thing that I'd say is really important is the majority of the shows, they have their own apps and you register for the apps and they'll give you a list of attendees who are going to be there. So you can connect with people ahead of time, have conversations with them, set up meetings in preparation for going to the show. So you already have things set up while you're there. I think it is important to be organized because a ticket to go to some of these conferences, $1,000. It's a significant investment. Then you got to pay for your travel, your hotel, et cetera, et cetera. It is a lot of money. But the great part about it is if you make just one contact, right? We always say this, right? If you meet one person that's going to positively impact your business, it is well worth it in the long run. So just from attending, I would say those are some important points. Going into exhibiting at a show, it's a whole other animal, right? So personally, what I've noticed is that there are trade show booths and setups that look like it took 5 minutes to get prepared. And then there are really nice booths. And I'm not saying you have to go out and spend $10,000 on your setup and be the nicest booth at the show. Make it look like you put effort into it and you've put thought into it. So you need to actually prepare and get something designed that's great for your business to attract the attendees to your booth to come talk to you, right? It's not as simple as getting 2 banners and throwing them up and, you know, everyone's going to come to you, right? A lot of it is actually going out into the crowd and pulling people into your booth, right? That's really important. So I'd say the design of your booth, making sure that you're getting your point across is really important. You know, some places to get your booths designed and set up, you know, we only realize this after many years. You can go on the Alibaba, really inexpensive. They can still do nice stuff. They'll print whatever you want at a reasonable price. And if you get it and you don't like it, you print another one.
I was
right?
just going to say, it's funny you say, you know, even ourselves, we've changed our banner cover, I think 4 or 5 times, just as we've been evolving the product, adding more material to it, the styles, where, you know, you always want to look fresh at these shows. You don't want to seem dated. I know we've been to some of these shows, and you're like, I'm not sure I even want to go over to those guys. Like, it looks like that booth is as old as their business. They haven't changed anything. Is this someone that's evolving, innovating in this space? Whereas you see guys, you know, they have really cool light backdrops, they've got screens, they've got interactive videos that are actually displaying what they're doing. I think that's all really important to the show, because there are, like you said, could be 50, 100 exhibitors. How are you standing out in front of that crowd? How are you really attracting those people to your booth?
What about giveaways, Joe? What do you think about having stuff there to give to people? Do you think it helps bring people in? Do you think it's just a standard, people take it, throw it in their bag and continue walking? What's your view on that?
You know, I have my own personal take on it. I've seen some people give out some incredible giveaways or, you know, items at the shows. I would say the common mistake that everyone's giving away today is hand sanitizer. I think a waste of money. It leaves no impression. You use it, you either throw it in your bag and you throw it out. A lot of these companies are also, you know, heavily backed financially, and they're looking just to throw stuff out by the end of the show. They don't even care. I think there was one company, I'm not going to mention their name, but they were giving out actual toolkits for construction, and it had a screwdriver and all the nuts and bolts, and that I took home with me, and I still look at it every single day. And I believe we even use that toolkit to assemble our
We got one in our box. Yeah,
we use that toolkit to assemble our box. That is something that I'm continuously looking at every single time we're setting up our booth, or I use it at home. But those are expensive. Those kits are probably $20, $25. So do you have a budget of tens of thousands of dollars to generate these kits over the trade show season? Some people might say it's worth it. You know, one deal from that client will pay for that toolbox. I do find that pens and the little notebooks, I would say, yeah, those hand sanitizers, everyone's giving them away. It's not original. It doesn't say anything about your company. It's just for someone to just come pick something off your table. I actually see people go walking by the booths at either before the shows start and just start taking stuff off people's tables just because they want to freeload. I think that it's funny because we don't actually give anything away at our booth, but we do have obviously an interactive setup with monitors, which is what I think attracts people to talk to us. I don't think you should be giving anything away, but again, it is something that people do all the time. It is something that is common at shows in general. So I would just say, think of something creative to leave a lasting impression, whether it's those stress balls. Like, if you're unique about it, I think it's great. If you're not, I think that's a phenomenal one. Because the fact that you took that home says that stuck with you. It was unique.
Money. I like money, and I like this. So I agree with you. You know what? I think people are spending so much money to attend. They don't really care about a pen, right? And, you know, maybe the idea is, you know, they have a pen with your company name, and hopefully they'll bring it back to the office, and hopefully it'll be on their desk, and, you know, hopefully they'll have a deal for you or whatever it is, and they'll look and they'll, you know, remember you. You know, I think honestly, just having a booth with proper information about what you do and how you can help them is just as good. Like, I don't think you need to just have something for the sake of having it. Like we don't do any of it, right?
I'm gonna one up you on this one, and I agree with you. You don't need anything. I think having either material that's actually more important, rates, fees, whatever you want to charge if you're a lender, or a breakdown of what your product does. But I actually think one of the most important things about the booth are the people that sit in that booth or stand in front of that booth. What I got away from a lot of the shows, companies will send employees, which is fine. Obviously, owners don't need to be at every show. The employees have to care. Sometimes I see guys, I talk to guys, and they're like, I just want to go home. And I see guys packing up 2 hours before the show is over. I think that is the biggest turnoff for me. That says the people that are representing this company do not care about the company or the product. And I think if a company's spending a lot of money, the message to the people representing that booth have to be you to be passionate about the company. Otherwise, don't go to these shows, because we're spending money on your behalf for you to earn clients or whatnot. And you better be there till the end. Seeing guys pack things up, and it's not a lot of people, but I have seen quite a few times, show ends at 5. I see guys packing up 2:33. Like, one thing is you want to pack up at 4:30, 4:45 because the floor is kind of starting to die down, and you got to catch a flight. I get it, but guys saying, I'm tired, I don't care to be here anymore, I've already given up all my stuff, I'm ready to go home, and I hear them saying that, that's kind of a warning sign for me.
I don't think a lot of the exhibitors do it. I know we do. I like it. It's every show you go to, they give you a table, right? And there's 2 chairs behind that table for you to sit at.
Yeah.
You can lay all your stuff on the table and people walk by. And I think it creates a separation, a divide between you and the people at the show. So like what we do is we get rid of that table and we bring our own, little stand-up ones. But the idea is I like to be standing, right? And not
looking
just
eye
in
to
my
eye.
booth, right? So, you're part of the show, right? And it's not like exhibitors on this side and attendees on that side, and it's very formal. It's more of a conversation, and people are just, they're surrounding your booth, right? Everyone is there. You feel like you're part of the crowd. It just makes it easier to talk to people. That's what I find. And there's few that do it. I think it's an important thing to consider if you are going to go to a show.
I agree. I think it's actually more like, it's definitely more inviting. I've noticed that because most people end up getting the 10 by 10 space. So it's not a lot of space. And if 6 by 10 of that space, so call it 60, 70% of that booth is taken up by your table and your backdrop, it's very little real estate left for people to come by the booth. But when it's all open, not only are you standing looking people face to face, I find that you're sitting and they're standing and they're looking down on you. There is something about that I don't feel comfortable about. I'd rather look at someone in the face, shake their hand. And again, not having that divide between the table. But when it's an open space, you can have more people in your booth, and you can have more people listening, talking to what's going on with whatever conversation you're having or whatever product you're selling. I think it's definitely something that people just start taking a different approach with. You'll notice when you go to other shows, not even some of the shows we go to, some of the larger shows, the guys who have the massive booths, they always have couches there for people to sit down, interact, have a full-blown, like, comfortable conversation. It's more of like, hey, have a seat, let's chat. It's more casual. It's less formal of, hi, here's my card, take it, pick up my flyer, take the little hand sanitizer, and move on to the next conversation. I think those guys actually have it figured out. There's more schmoozing and more relationship building that's done in those booths than there are in those 10 by 10 with the table.
So we go to the hard money conferences, right? So anyone in that space, private lending, those are the shows we typically attend. Probably go to 10 a year, I'd say, in that range. What type of people attend those shows? Who will you meet? What kind of businesses are they in? Even though it's a hard money conference, I mean, let's tell people what they should expect to see there, who they should expect to meet. We have obviously like hard money lenders, they attend the shows. Right.
Yeah, the larger lenders are exhibiting because they want the smaller lenders to sell their notes to them, for sure.
Right. Software companies obviously are there.
Yep.
right? All different types of software, right? So it's not just like LOS and servicing software. You know, you have like appraisal
Construction.
companies, construction software companies, you know, tons of different software companies that, you know, you may get some ideas from. You know, I would say brokers walk around there. They want to meet lenders.
A lot of like table funding lenders, guys,
Yeah,
because, but yes, brokers for sure, depending on the conference you're going to.
yeah.
Brokers and table funders who don't hold anything on their own balance sheets. You've got servicers, guys servicing the notes.
Big note buyers who don't even exhibit. Some of them walk around. They say like, "Yeah, I'm from, you know, Wall Street. I'm looking for books of business to buy." Right.
Yep. I would say insurance companies.
Yeah.
Law firms, right? They're soliciting business from the larger clientele and the smaller clientele.
I guess it's every aspect of a transaction, right? They all attend.
Like we've got, you know,
Yeah.
Spiegel's always there. The accounting firm is always there, which surprises there's not more accounting firms.
Every aspect of a loan, right? So if you're doing any business in the hard money space and you think you're weak in any aspect, going to a show, you will meet someone in the space that you're looking for. They're there. You may have to like search, right? You may have to do your preliminary search at who's going to be there, who's exhibiting, who are the attendees, but you will find them. And I don't even think it matters which show you're going to. They're there, right? And again, some of them are better than others. Some shows are bigger than others. So do your homework ahead of time. See which ones are good for you. There are shows on the East Coast. There are shows on the West Coast. You can find a show near you, right? So I think it's something that's important to do. What about setting up the booth, traveling with the booth? I would say there's a different ways to do it. Like we're from Canada, so we have to like lug it back and forth. But we see it pretty common if you're in the States to have the booth shipped, just because it doesn't really cost that much money to do that. And I'd recommend getting it shipped many days before the show starts.
Yeah, if you're doing like, you could do ground shipping, it takes like 5-6 days. It's very uncommon that there's back-to-back shows literally in different states or across the nation. So 9 out of 10 times you can just have it shipped and show up to the next show 2 weeks later. Obviously, if it's a back-to-back show, like we had one in California, and then as soon as that was done, flying to Florida, you're going to just take it with you, of course. There are companies that obviously have a little bit more money, and they'll just pay to have the booth set up for them at the show. Some companies don't have that luxury. They're just starting out. Some companies that are, 100 plus employees with billions of dollars of funds under management, they can afford it. They just don't want the headache. And so they'll just pay for someone to take the booth down and store it and show up at the next event. Like it's a full service, but it is probably as expensive to do one setup as it is to buy the booth. I've heard of setups costing $5,000, which I think is, I'll take the booth and set it up myself at that cost. But again, that's my perspective. Other people will have a different perspective on it. It's corporate money.
So people go to trade shows, obviously, to get more business. That's the point of it. Meet people in the industry, see what they're missing, learn, right? There's always going to be someone smarter in the room, right? Who's doing something a little bit unique and different, and you're going to learn a lot there. And we're there because we want to make more money, right? We want to get more business somehow. We got to figure out ways to do that. What are some things that occur over the course of a trade show and conference that people should actually participate in, right? So there's obviously walking around the trade show. That's obvious. You get a ticket, you show up, you walk around, you meet people in the booth. What are some things that people need to do to make it worthwhile, to expand their horizon while they're there?
That's a great question. And I will say some of the shows do it much better than the others. They really think about all the interactive events they can have before a show. So some of the conferences will throw a golf event a day before. They tend to be on weekends because they don't want to take up people's time during the week. You're spending 4 hours with 3 other people. It's an incredible way to get to know people over that time frame. More time that you'll spend usually than any other time at the show with somebody. That's number one. And you might get lucky, and sometimes you'll play with people that are amazing connections, and some people that's just a good time. And either way, that's amazing, because even if they like you, they might introduce you to other people in the future. So either way, building new relationships is always amazing. The second is a lot of these events do throw these cocktail events that are sponsored by some of the larger exhibitors the night before the event. And that is usually, something in the evening between 6 to 9 or 7 to 10. And a lot of connections happen pre the show. So you're going to meet people, you bring your cards, you say, I'm exhibiting, come by the booth in the morning. So now you're in your head, you already know who you've got to chase down or who you've got to pull into your booth the next morning. Because you've had actually time to talk to those people before the trade show rush. Because the trade show itself, it's very intense, it's very fast paced, there's a lot going on. Cards are exchanged, sometimes you forget, they don't have something on them at the time they promised to come back to you, you're busy, you forget. This is a great time to collect cards before the show starts, because even if you don't connect with them at the show, you've already made that connection. You can call them at the show and try to connect afterwards.
I love the golf tournaments because even if the people you're playing with, there's not a business connection there, you're going to find very often, more often than not, those people are going to meet people at the show and they know what you're doing. And all of a sudden now they're bringing people to you because you played with them for 4 or 5 hours, right? At the golf tournament. Then after the golf tournament, there's usually a little reception too. So you're hanging out with them again.
You're having beers after the game. Yeah, exactly.
You create this quick friendship with these people who are going to help you throughout that show. And it's a two-way street, right? So you have to know what they're doing because you also want to be the person that's going to help them as well, right? So I think that the golf tournament, yeah, like you said, very, very important. You do want to know when the cocktail receptions are. You want to know what parties are going on. You want to do as much as possible.
Social schmoozing, yeah.
You got to do it. One thing you didn't bring up that I think is really important too is every single trade show you're going to see before the show even starts, registration and breakfast between 7 and 8:30 a.m. or 8 to 9 a.m. And absolutely. I think people, they're like, okay, I'll show up for breakfast. I won't show up for breakfast. Big deal. I'm going to make it on time for the show. The breakfast is an amazing opportunity to meet people, right? Because everyone's sitting at a table, there's an open seat, you get your breakfast, you sit down, and now you're meeting 10 people before the show even starts. And they're a captive audience, right?
They're listening.
They're there. They're listening.
And everyone's very open. I was shocked how, it's funny, almost, especially in the US, I was shocked how friendly everybody was and how welcoming they were hearing your story, whether you're running a $5 billion fund or you're just someone who's starting in the business, totally open to talking to you, to understanding who you are, because they're also there to meet people. And if you're standoffish or you're not open or friendly, you're going to leave the wrong impression on these people. So yeah, everyone is extremely friendly. And you're right, that 20-30 minutes of just getting to know people at a 8 to 10 person table, it's so crucial. You do it during breakfast and you definitely do it during the lunch. And so that's, again, 2 more opportunities to bring people to your booth if you're exhibiting, or to know what booths to go to during those, like after lunch. You might have not gone to that particular area, or you might have seen that booth before, not realized what they did, and never bothered going over, right? So you're 100% right.
You're a solo shop, you run your own business, you're going out alone. Maybe you're not as outgoing as, you could be. Maybe you're nervous to go. How easy is it to open up a conversation with people? And how would you go about doing that, right?
I would say, going back to what you said earlier, which I think is so crucial to a company's success at some of these shows. I've seen certain guys take full advantage of those apps. The apps is something really easy. You can reach out to people, you can book these appointments. This is now people who have booked time slots to talk to you. So it doesn't even need to be a super social setting with, maybe you are not comfortable in those social settings. Maybe you don't know people as well as, there is a bit of camaraderie at these shows where you see the same faces and they all become friends now. So if you're new, it would be easier to meet them through the apps, to talk to them, to set up these appointments. And then when you see them in another social setting, it's easier to go approach them again. The apps, I think, is a great way to do it. But in general, I'd say everyone is quite welcoming and open to talking to you at the shows. Someone's outside having a beer or a drink, hey, you got your name tag, I'm from this company, like what do you do, what brings you here? And they'll strike up a combo with you.
One thing I really like about the US shows as opposed to the Canadian shows, and not to talk poorly on the Canadian shows, but I feel like the Canadian shows, the people are kind of forced to be there, right? They get their tickets from their brokerage or whatever they are, they're getting them from, and they're showing up. And it's almost like, yay, I get a day off work, right? That's the way I feel about those shows. The shows in the US, people are spending hard-earned dollars to attend. They're flying from across the country to attend, right? It's a big investment for them. So they're not looking to be in the corner, not talking to anyone, right? They want to talk to people, right? They're there for a purpose. They're there to grow their business. So if you are on the shy side, going up and talking to someone, they want to hear from you. They want to hear what you're up to. They want to know if you guys can do business together. Everyone is spending a lot of money to be there. No one is there on a free ride, right? So everyone is looking to improve their business. You just got to go. You got to talk to people.
It's funny you said it, because at the Canadian shows, the ticket price is like $50, $100, almost like you can show up for lunch and get your money's worth. Those shows at $1,000, they're multi-day events. So that's
hotels, flights,
hotels,
everything.
It's not just that though. It's where the US have, I think, figured it out. If for criticizing, Canada's been closed, so there have been no shows for the last 2 years. But the speakers at the US events, you got to see how much those rooms fill up when the speakers are there. People are listening. People want to know what's going on with the rules, with the regulatory bodies. I find what they also make a mistake with the Canadian shows, they keep the exhibitors in the same hall as where all the
speakers are.
Yeah, all the speakers are. And so the exhibitors are sitting there with their, flipping their thumbs or, playing with their thumbs for hours at a time. And so it kind of throws them off. Whereas like if someone doesn't want to hear a certain session, they're still welcome to go and talk to exhibitors. So the US have done a great job in separating the exhibitors from the speakers. Whereas like you might only get an hour of action time at a Canadian show, you are on your feet from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m, assuming there's no second day, of constant people coming by your booth. And I think that you can justify why, even if the ticket price is 10 times the price, it is absolutely worth going to those shows.
How do you leverage existing connections that you have, people that maybe existing clients, or people that you do business with? How do you leverage those relationships when you're at the show? Like what should you do? What can you do to help you go home with more?
Oh, I would say, listen, if you've got friends, if you've got friendlies at the show, have them in your booth. If you're, just having a chit chat and someone comes by, obviously, hey, oh, by the way, I want you to meet one of my clients. They'll endorse your product for you. If there's more people in the booth and they start seeing and hearing your name more and more, just buys you credibility absolutely right away. I think something that we learned the hard way in the beginning, we sort of isolated ourselves. We didn't talk to as many people in the beginning. Now that we're sort of veterans at these shows, we know a lot of these people. It's very easy to get around. There's always introductions being made, but I think you have to make that effort. You have to, and some of these shows have organizations within them as well. I would probably recommend you join the organizations that obviously throw these shows, because then you can get to know the members even better and have even further deeper relationships with these either potential customers or actual customers as well.
One thing that I think that we learned over time, and we only really started doing this regularly recently, is, you see an existing client, they come to your booth to say hi, take a picture with them, right?
Oh.
Put it on social media, ask if they can give you a testimonial on video, do whatever you can to engage, right? And get as much content as possible, right? Because it's one thing to be there, it's another to share that you're there, right? And then you can get a whole other potential group of people that are interested to know more about your product, right? So I think the more content you can put out being at a show. So like, what are some things that we do, right? We do maybe a video of the setup of the booth, maybe a walkthrough of the venue, right? Maybe pictures of existing clients, video testimonials. we'll do like a wrap up at the end, basically explaining what happened, some of the highlights of the show, maybe some
thanking
shout
the
outs,
organization.
thanking organizations.
Well, think about it. Like, you're taking photos with people in the booth and people are smiling. When people are walking by, they're like, wow, there's like some genuine relations built with these guys. Like, maybe I should go talk to them too. They're seeing action. They're seeing people smiling, having fun in that booth. They might want to be a part of that. You're definitely giving off a very positive energy that people are absolutely definitely being attracted to that for sure.
The other thing I like is because we do like a wrap up video, and then Michaela and Tatiana, they put together like such a nice video of everything that happened
with the music and
the whole ordeal, like the wrap up.
Actually,
the organizations and the events typically reshare those, right? Because they hire someone to go and take photos, and maybe they'll have like their own little wrap up, but we're almost doing some of the work for them. It's like advertising for them, right? We're telling people how great of an event it was, and we're showing people exactly what happened and the highlights, and getting a share from an organization that throws these trade shows that have thousands of connections, more than thousands, probably tens of thousands.
Well,
huge.
That's right. Huge. Like, not only do your own followers get it, but now, especially with LinkedIn, right? Because that's the business social media now. The impressions that I've seen from some of the shares have been 2,000 to 3,000 on a reshare that I've made or that they've made of one of my posts. So if I'm only going to get, let's say, 500 views, they reshare because we've tagged their name in, or they've liked it, and then people see that they've liked it or commented on it, which they obviously will. That goes from 500 to 3,000, like literally right away, and that's huge, because then now people that are not within your primary connections are starting to add you. I've noticed a lot of people started adding me after the shows that I was not connections or didn't even potentially connect with.
You get a business card, right? Someone comes to the booth, maybe you're not exhibiting, you're walking around, you're meeting people, you're exchanging business cards. What's something that you do with that business card? Do you just put it in your pocket? Do you write something on it? What do you like to do with the business cards? Because I mean, I know me personally, I like to write about the interaction on the card. Because you're going to notice you're going to go in with 50 cards, 100 cards. How are you going to remember everybody, right? So personally, I like to write something on the card. Is there something that you do, Joe? Do you like immediately try to input it into a database, write a note on them? What do you do?
So sometimes if it's in the spur of the moment, I have two sides to my jacket pockets. I have like the super important batch and like maybe not as important batch. And
so like maybe directly relates to your business and is probably a really good business connection, and
where I have to reach out to them,
right?
Because I met them at the show. I'll also send myself emails, or I'll even say to them, hey, what's your email address? I'm going to email you right now. You tell me if you have some time already next week. Like, I'll start planning rather than me having to put the info in and even then reach out after the show. And sometimes people get busy. If they're hot to trot, like they're excited about what we're offering and what we're exhibiting, I'll literally just send them emails right away so that they have my details. They can instantly reply. They can tell me what their schedule looks like. And I just book them in for potentially a meeting or whatever as soon as I get back, essentially. I know you and Pavel have been very good about writing on the cards themselves. I don't do that, but again, I just separate. So Pavel will usually have a stack like this, or you have a stack. I have two stacks, and I know in my brain, I remember like the super 10 most important interactions I had that day and who I have to speak to. And either emails have already been sent or we've had such good convos, like I know for a fact I'm going to remember them for sure.
Yeah. And I write on the cards, like, every conversation I go into, one of the important things I like to ask is, you're at the show. What are you trying to get out of the show? Why are you here? Right? What are you trying to improve in your business? What are you looking for? Because I think if we match, right, and maybe there's a potential there, I want to write down right after the conversation exactly what happened. So when I'm emailing or calling them at a later date, I know what that conversation was. That's me, right? I just want to bring things up. So like for us, we're a software platform. We're an LOS platform. If you're listening, you obviously know that. right? But if I'm talking to a lender and I'm asking them, how big is your business? How many loans do you have? What's your current process? What softwares are you currently using? I want to know that information when I'm reaching out. I can point back and say, okay, this is the person I'm talking to. I remember them. I know the conversation we had. I know the struggles they're having. So it makes it a little bit easier to connect with them after. But I don't think it's the right or wrong way. I think it's whatever will work with you.
It's funny. One thing that Pavel, I remember, was doing when he was by himself in Dallas, we couldn't go because of COVID.
Photos, right? The pictures.
He would either just take photos of people's, like the
name badges.
The name badges. But another thing that he was doing, he was booking demos or meetings, right? And we kind of stopped doing that. It's something I'd probably want to pick back up again. I'd probably say, like, rather than giving away, again, going back to the tables with the hand sanitizer, I'd have a tablet there. And it's like, if someone's really excited and you've had a really solid convo, some guys will, they'll stay in your booth like half an hour asking every question over above the rainbow about what the system can or cannot do, or what your product can or cannot do. If they're that excited, like, I want them booking the demo right at, or that conversation right at the show. Why do I have to even think about taking the card and making a note and hopefully he doesn't get busy? We should be taking our own advice from this podcast. But I do think that not many people at the shows do that. I don't see tablets at the shows unless they're showing something visually to them. But I think that's really important. I think it could really help solidify more leads long-term for people.
What about the hotels? Let's talk about the hotels, right? We have different shows, different organizations, a different idea as to where these shows should take place. Some of them 5-star locations, others not so great. And this goes on both sides, right, of the equation. Like, number one, I think it's important to stay at the hotel where the show's taking place.
Yes.
Regardless of the price, right? So you may go to a show and, some of these hotel rooms are $500-600 a night, and maybe that's not in your budget. Do you stay at another location? Do you suck it up and eat the cost? Or maybe on the other opposite end of the spectrum, the hotel they're staying in is not somewhere you want to stay. Do you find another location where you feel more comfortable in? Do you stay there anyways? How important is it to stay where the event is taking place?
I think it's absolutely crucial. I think that if that hotel is not up to your standards based on the way you travel personally as an individual or with your spouse, I think you have to suck it up. I think that it is imperative. If you're setting up the booth, having to lug your booth from hotel to hotel is kind of a disaster. But I think that just being able to mingle with people in the lobbies, where are you going for dinner? People always tend to be in the lounges or the bars at the hotels. I think that if the hotel is a nice hotel because that particular organization likes to stay in nicer places, you have to suck it up. I think if you're spending money on the tickets, that's $1,000 and you're paying for flights and you're already there, to tell people like, oh, I'm staying at, this more affordable hotel because I don't want to spend the money staying at this hotel, they're going to be like, why are you here? Why? Like, if money's an issue, like, do I even want to work with you? Like, are you good? If there are other financial concerns that I should.
What if you wait till the hotel sells out?
Well, I'll tell you this, like, going back to your
that was more of a joke. That was more of a joke, but you got to book the hotel right away.
Yeah, if you're planning the trip, you have to book these events. Again, as an exhibitor, you have to book because they get sold out. As an attendee, yes, you can come last minute. There are discounts by the hotels do offer for show attendees. So so you do get a promo code that you can apply that will save you a few bucks to stay at the hotel because they want to incentivize you to stay at the hotel. But you should be booking these events way, way ahead of time. They do sell out, and then people end up getting stuck staying at other hotels, which could be just as expensive, by the way, depending on the weekend, what's going on there, because Vegas tends to be a big hotspot. And if there's some other event, other conference, the rooms get actually sometimes more expensive.
Hotel rooms, it's the shows themselves to sell it, right? We were at a show in Miami, I think it was in March, and there was 200 people in the lobby trying to get a ticket to the show. Sorry, there's already 700 people here. You can't come.
And they
Right,
came
so-
thinking that they could just show up and
Walk
play.
in and pay. So yeah, if there's a show on your list that you want to attend, just buy the ticket. Just buy it right away. Just make sure you have access to go, because they actually do sell out. I know it sounds surprising,
The good shows
Sure.
definitely sell out
Yeah.
for sure.
but so if you're planning on attending a show, exhibiting on a show, do your research. Look up on the internet to see what shows are around. If you know people who attended shows, reach out. You can reach out to us. We're more than happy to tell you what shows we're going to be attending. But yeah, do your research, see where you want to go, see what's close to you maybe. Make sure you have a ticket. Make sure you do it ahead of time before things sell out. If you have any questions about attending a show, whether as an exhibitor or an attendee, reach out to us. We're always happy to help. So if you have any questions, don't be shy. But I'd say, yeah, we're at all the shows. We hope we see you there. If you're at a show and you don't know us personally, come by, say hello. We're happy to show you a demo of Automator quickly. We have a 5-minute video that we show people, just the basic stuff. And that's another thing, right? Maybe you just tell people, surface level what you do and how you can help them. And then you save the real conversation for later. But yeah, we'd love to meet you guys. Our next show's in a couple of weeks. I'm sure you can look up online or reach out to us to see which show that is, and maybe we can meet you. And thanks for tuning in once again to the Ask a Private Lender podcast. As always, you can follow us on all of our social media accounts. Follow Mortgage Automator on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We're Automator Group on Twitter. Go to askaprivatelender.com to check out all the latest podcast episodes. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.